All right, it's 12 o'clock, high noon. You are tuned to WHUS Storrs, 91.7 FM. And, well, let's hear this message, and then I'm going to maybe put a little Sun Ra on, and then we're going to hear from Trudy Morse.
Hi, this is Marshall Allen, director of the Sun Ra Arkestra. Open the doors to the cosmos on Sun Ra's Cosmo Corner on WHUS.
Ways are not so far when vibrations hit your heart. Your world becomes a star. No matter who you are, they say that you are pleasant sort when you get vibrations from an asteroid. Tapestry from an asteroid you caught makes your life filled with space joy. when there is no sun to light the way. There is no day. There is no day. There's only darkness. Eternal sea of darkness.
Everything has been tried, to do something about the planet. But it's chaotic here, you see, division and everything. Everything has been tried but chaos. Planned, blueprinted, superior, cosmic chaos. Pure chaos. Can't even compare. Because actually when you think about the cosmos, it is chaos because you can't measure it, you see. Everything is out there. And you got everything thrown in together. That is chaos. Over in the East and Arkestra, they speak of the cosmos things as being chaos. And they deal with it that way, you see. Because when you can measure something, then you can kind of put it in order and classify it. But you can't classify it endless. You can't do that because you can't measure it. So then you could say that it is what you might call spiritual chaos on that particular point of view. It's nothing to do with the mind because the mind can't measure it anyway. So this is where we were at. I got a song he was telling me about. I was some time ago called On the Edge of Tomorrow. That song was written some time ago, but that's exactly where we are now. We're right on the edge of tomorrow.
Well, folks, I have Trudy Morse on the phone. Trudy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Trudy, are you in New Orleans now?
No, I live in Garrett Park on the outskirts of Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're not that far away then. Just in D.C. area. All right, folks, in case you don't know who Trudy Morse is, she is a kind of an extraordinary woman who has spent a lot of time in her life exploring the outer reaches of the universe in many ways. And how did you first become acquainted with Sun Ra, Trudy?
I was married to a scientist, and I was traveling mostly with Cecil Taylor, but I was very curious about Sun Ra because he always said he came from Saturn. And my husband was interested in anomalous phenomenon, and we have traveled, for instance, to Australia, where some people think there may have been a landing. So I went to meet this man and just listen to him.
And when was that?
That I think was about 1990.
Oh, okay. All right. But when did you hear Sun Ra's music first?
Oh, I heard that in about 1968. I was in Seattle, and I came across it. My son was interning in a hospital there, and I said, "Hey, Mel, we got to go listen to this guy. This is rather interesting stuff."
Really, and considering that you and your husband were involved with some space work, I think Sun Ra kind of clicked right in with that.
Exactly.
And so when you met Sun Ra in 1990, you met him in person at that time, right?
Well, I was with Cecil Taylor and talking to his agent, and I said, "Who is this guy, Sun Ra?" And it turns out that they also represented him. So I said, "Gee, I would love to meet him," and he made the arrangements.
Okay. So how long were you with Cecil?
I've known Cecil since about 1990.
Oh, okay. And you read poetry with Cecil also?
No, Cecil does his own poetry.
Okay.
And it was only, sometimes there are workshops where I might read his poetry, but only recently in Paris he did give me a piece to read with the Italian Instabile Orchestra.
Wow.
In pieces.
That must have been pretty cool.
That was there isn't pretty cool, there is no word. It was called Particles.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really quantum mechanics and quantum theory, and Cecil is a very brilliant person and knows about those things, and so did Sun Ra.
Oh, absolutely. What does Cecil think about Sun Ra?
He's very, very, what's the word, positive about him.
Uh-huh.
And he isn't that way about everybody.
Yeah.
But he always had good words for Sun Ra.
Oh, that's nice to know. I've been a big fan of Cecil. I actually saw a New Year's show one time in New York that was Cecil and Sun Ra together. Well, they didn't perform together, but both of their bands played. So that was one of my high points of seeing live music. So when did you first see a performance by Sun Ra?
Well, as I say, in 1968, and then he disappeared from my life because it just happened I was visiting my son in Seattle. So I never saw too many of the performances, but I was very interested in the poetry. I come not from the music of Sun Ra, but the poetry.
Yeah. Well, you know, the man was one of the more expansive minds that we ever had on our planet. And, you know, I consider him the greatest musical genius we've ever had, but his poetry is incredible, and, you know, I'm glad that you're keeping that stuff alive. Mm-hmm. So did Sun Ra actually invite you to perform some poetry with?
Well, the way it went, I do some poetry too, but mine always is the dichotomy of heaven and earth. And I just said to him, you know, I'd love to see some of your poetry. And he handed me this big, thick book, perfectly typed, beautifully indexed. And I opened up, I have a little book. And so I said, I want to read it. And so I just did everything hit or miss the way I picked up this one, Cosmic Equations. And as I was reading it, I realized it's all celestial. So my eye wandered to mine that talks like something back to Eden. I hear those bells ringing, but I must get back inside Eden. He never considered himself part of this earth. And this went on for a couple of hours, and before you know it, we were at the house. Marshall Allen and Gilmore came down, and they started playing the music. And that was quite an experience for me to improvise his poetry with his music. And that's what started everything. And after that, I was performing with him.
Yeah. Now, did you do specific pieces? Did you and Sun Ra choose which poetry to read, or how did it work out?
Well, it was very interesting. This was the period 1990 that you may know. I call it the silent period. He was in a wheelchair, and I had a science and music project, and I had funded one at the New England Conservatory and MIT. And it was that point that I was going to read something. And I am not exaggerating. First I asked how many minutes, 10 minutes, which means poetry and music. And he kept handing me piece after piece to read where he was playing tapes. We practiced 3 hours, and we're now about 3 a.m. for the next morning's performance. And I said, Sun Ra, I would like to know, what do you particularly like? Because he didn't even tell me what to read. And he started saying some names. I said, take this little book, please, and mark it. And that was, you may have seen one of the poetry books that were put out in the early days. I think it's called the Hines Brother.
Well, the Hines Brothers put it out, yeah.
Those little books, that's what I was working from. I have them in front of me.
But the Immeasurable Equation was the poetry book that Sun Ra put out, and there was several different versions of it. I have like 3 or 4 of them.
The ones that are done on legal paper, very carefully indexed?
No, I actually have one that's really large, and that's the big version of Immeasurable Equation. The other ones are little paperbacks, like little pamphlets.
The little pamphlets, those were done by the
Hines Brothers.
Yeah, Omnipress. I'm looking at it.
Yes.
Well, he notated mine, and he put a little circle and a little line, and practically every single one was annotated. So that gave me the thought that I just should pick whatever I feel like. And that's the way it went the following day. But the rehearsal, think of it, 3 hours for a 10-minute performance.
Yeah, that sounds like Sun Ra.
Yeah.
And, they would often do their 12-hour rehearsals or, even longer. The guys talk about these extravaganzas that would start, at some point and then end at some point where they had no idea when it was over. So, Sun Ra, music was life to him, and, he expected the orchestra to be the same way.
Of course, everybody. But you see, then, as they said, it happened to me, after he practices with you, he was just going from tape to tape. Then you see, you come to the actual performance. The music is totally different, and then you see, I choose in the poem, which is exactly the way the orchestra went, remember?
Yes.
All of the rehearsals. But when the performance comes, everybody seems to be on his own.
Yeah, and often what I've heard is that they rehearsed, for hours and hours, and then what they rehearsed was not performed.
Exactly. See, something else. Yeah. Well, that was exactly with me. You see, he never played the music that was going to be had the following day. Just tapes that he played.
Uh-huh.
And then you see, I did 3 hours of many poems, but had to pick out just one or two for that actual performance.
Wow. And were these tapes the whole orchestra, or was it just Sun Ra on keyboards?
No, I guess you've heard the story of the tapes. So much of the rehearsals were taped.
Yes.
So there were literally, hundreds of tapes. And some thought they were valuable. Some of those tapes were stolen from Morton Street. And he just had like a big bag of tapes.
Oh, okay.
Without names or anything. Just from now I think they were probably rehearsals.
Uh-huh.
Because their own finished products were, you remember, the old-fashioned
the Saturn,
records.
Yeah, the Saturn records, yeah.
The Saturn records.
Wow, and I remember you performed at the Sun Ra Memorial concert in the Bottom Line in New York City.
Right.
That was an amazing night, and Amiri Baraka read that night, and it was a incredible thing, and you did a tremendous piece. I remember Marshall and John both being very happy with your performance that night.
Thank you very much. You knew they had been at the funeral that day?
Yes, I know Marshall was. They just got off the plane and showed up at the show.
And there they were. That itself was remarkable, because there's never any rehearsal. And the way everybody just fits in, I just thought that would be too much for me. I'm 83 now. But there they were at the funeral. Somehow they came back, were in place, everything on time.
Yeah.
And the audience would never have known how much activity had been.
Right, they had actually performed at the gravesite.
Exactly. So you see, that timing was remarkable.
Yeah. Well, Marshall's, 79 now. I just saw them in New York last week, actually, and it was one of the great shows. They sounded fantastic.
Yeah,
and,
he somehow kept the spirit.
Right, and they just got back from Spain. I believe they got back yesterday. They were in Spain for 4 or 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I was trying to call him because I thought maybe you would also like to interview him.
Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're planning on a really large Marshall interview, and I'm pretty close friends with Marshall, and we've talked about it for many years.
Okay.
And I think what I want to do is go down to Philadelphia sometime and just do several hours worth, and do
right.
something.
So you have his telephone number.
Oh yes.
Okay,
Marshall,
because I had it here for you.
Well, that's Marshall and I are pretty good buddies, and years ago, before he'd ever done an interview, he never wanted to do one, and he always said he'd do one with me, but we never pulled it off because I wanted to make sure it was really right. And at this point, with a guy at 79, I think we got to get it done. So Christopher Eddy, who actually interviewed you, a very nice interview with you, wants to go down to Philadelphia with me, and we want to videotape it and do a really extensive thing with Marshall. So that's coming up sometime soon. We don't have a date yet, but we're going to do it.
Well, do you know the name Bayard Lancaster?
Bayard Lancaster is one of my favorites. Yeah, I love Bayard.
Well, he's going to do a performance on April 1st, and he wanted me to do poetry. So he's been asking me to call Marshall, but they hadn't come back from Spain yet.
Right. I think they just got back yesterday or this morning.
Right. So it's funny how we're all connected together.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, may I tell him that I've been talking to you.
Absolutely, a Bayard. He was one of my favorites. I picked up the alto sax many years ago myself, and Bayard was one of the reasons I did it, because I saw him perform, and he just blew me away. And he's one of my. I haven't heard anything from him for many years, but he's definitely one of my favorites.
He's not only a wonderful player, but a beautiful person.
Oh, well, that's great.
And he's doing a little of Coltrane these days.
Yeah, he always did some Coltrane pieces, but I'm glad he's doing that.
Yeah, a very spiritual person.
Yeah.
So I'll tell him, too. The only thing is my computer. You see, I have no telephone.
Oh.
So today there's no computer, and Bayard is waiting for me to call him back.
Oh.
But by the way, if you have time, you might want to call Marshall.
Well, I certainly will. I'm going to call Marshall for sure.
And if you don't happen to have Bayard's telephone number,
I don't. I
have no phone number. I do everything by email.
Oh, gee, if you had his number, I'd call him for you, but...
But please tell Marshall that Bayard is trying to be in touch with him.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
I've been trying to organize some things like Babatunde Olatunji, who is also a friend of mine. Marshall played with him many years ago, and I told Baba was on my program live one time, and I said that Marshall was a friend of mine. He goes, "Oh man, I haven't talked to him in 25 years. I want to get together." And I thought to have them perform together would be one of the ultimates. But
is he from California?
Baba is in California right now, and his health is failing. He really needs a portable dialysis machine.
Oh my God!
I just got a email from him, and he's actually trying to get donations for that. So
I'm sorry to hear that. By the way, I want to be sure it's the right one. Does he have a wife who also does vocals?
Baba does.
The wife.
Well, I don't think so. His daughter performs with him dancing, but I don't.
No, it must be a different name, because Cecil, he performed with Cecil. At that time, I did vocals. With Cecil, I do more of the vocals. That was at the San Francisco Jazz Festival, and this wonderful woman, she did scat.
Oh boy!
And I don't do scat. I do chanting.
Yeah.
So can you imagine chanting with scat?
Oh yeah.
Cecil's poetry, if it's a little bit different. It's just sounds, but I kept up that chanting kind of what would you say, monotonous. And here she's scatting in between all those tones. That was really quite a thing. But I'll get that name for you too.
All right, good. So, Trudy, do you think you might want to read a poem, and we can play a little bit of Sun Ra behind you? And
well, I have in front of me Cosmic Equations. That has always been my favorite. And if you have any of the old Saturn, I think anyone you pick up, it will go.
Well, unfortunately, I have a lot. I have most of them, to be honest, but I didn't bring them in with me.
All right.
But I do have...
When I mentioned, that the book is annotated, which he likes, which are his favorites, I just picked up When Angels Speak. That has a circle, a line, and a check. So let's do that one, and I'm sure it'll work into whatever you have. It's the only one that has so many... Although these, I don't know, this one just struck me as another favorite. Okay, but I will hear what you're playing, and it may be something totally different.
Okay. Well, let's
see.
Let's try this.
And a throb in the spirit of the air, and the wind spoke to me. Every part of me is the essence of life. I come from beyond. I come from beyond the comprehension of Earth. There is no map of my realm. threshold and the kingdoms of the universe. I live and dwell as the scale of nothingness. For I am nothing, but I am power, and I am life itself. Thus spoke the wind to me, while I listened to the music of the spheres. Every part of me is the essence of life. I came out from beyond the comprehension of earth. There is no map of my realm. My haven is the threshold and the kingdom. I am nothing, but I am power, and I am life itself. spoke the wind beneath, while I listened to the music of the spheres.
Wow, Trudy, we opened the door of the cosmos there, playing you live. You're down in Washington, D.C. now. We're playing you live with Sun Ra, who is in the cosmos, John Gilmore in the cosmos, Marshall Allen, maybe he's on a plane coming back from Spain, and we're playing it all together here on the Cosmic Corner. So, man,
I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I sure did, and, you know, I had no idea that piece would work so well with you, but it did work really well. And we got to thank Christopher for getting that for us, because I'd never heard an instrumental version of There Are Other Worlds I Have Not Told You Of. So how many pieces of poetry did you read that time?
Just one.
Oh, just one? You just, it was different.
That was, see, that's what's so interesting about anything with Sun Ra. I just opened to it because I had told you that he had marked every single page, but here I noticed it was different. The circle, a line, a check, and even, what would you call it, a double cross. So that's what hit me, probably is meant to go with that piece, and it's called The Scale of Nothingness.
The Scale of Nothingness, wow.
4, 6, 8, 10. It's about 20 lines, and I don't know how many minutes did you play.
We had about 9 minutes.
That was 9 minutes. So 20 lines for 9 minutes. Well, that's what I call a 10-minute performance.
Yeah, and that was the complete...
Poem, and then the music, of course, intertwines.
That was the complete poem?
Yeah, that was the whole poem.
Wow, and see, we didn't plan that out, but the piece was about 9 minutes long, and the poem, you know,
yeah.
that was...
Well, that's you see, I would select a poem about this size. It's 20 lines, and then I would just tell whoever has invited me to perform that it just allowed 10 minutes. You see, you had an introductory of the music, and then it winds in and out.
Yep.
And then the music always ends it, because I don't know why, but it just seems that you should always leave hearing the orchestra.
Oh, yes.
See, that's the you start always with the orchestra. And it seems to work for 10 minutes, a strange story.
Yeah. And it sounds like some of those notations, like, you know, Sun Ra's cosmic equations, when he performed here at the university, he was in a wheelchair at the time, but he was in the hotel room, and I was spending some time with him in the band, and he just had a piece of paper and wrote all these incredible cosmic equations. You know, some of it had to do with language and numbers and everything, and he was just writing all around the page in circles and everything. I actually have a copy of it. It was pretty amazing to see him do that.
Well, now, where was this? Because
it was at the University of Connecticut, which is where our radio station is.
Do you remember what year that was?
It was 91, I believe, because it was after his first stroke. It was before the second one, and he was in his wheelchair, but he still had quite a bit of his faculties. Billy Bang was at the show, and Billy and Sun Ra did a duet, a violin piano duet that John Gilmore said to me afterwards he had never heard anything like that in his life, and it was a pretty cool show.
Well, Billy Bang himself is an interesting person. I performed with him at the Knitting Factory, and I really, see, nobody knows, that time it was my own poetry. Nobody knows what I'm going to read, and I don't know what the person is playing. And all of a sudden, this man is crying. And after it was over, I said, Billy, what was this all about? And he said, I was saying something. Oh, that's right, it was the Sun Ra one. I've left, this space so far away. It was really almost as if it were planned for his own memorial service. That's why I remember now it comes back to me about being way out. I'll see you in way out of space. I don't have it right in front of me.
Oh, I'll wait for you, that one?
I'll wait for you.
Yes.
many miles in space
Yes.
where no man has ever trod.
Right.
And what Billy was so moved, he said he was thinking of a friend of his who had just died. And here I come out with that Sun Ra piece.
Oh, yeah.
No man has ever tried. I'll wait for you
Yes.
in space.
In some far place, many light years in space. I'll wait
Yeah.
for you. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful poem, as everything Sun Ra is, of course.
Yeah. Well, Trudy, do you have any future plans to do any more performances of this nature?
Well, frankly, I've been with Cecil Taylor now. You see, it was his 70th anniversary, and I really wanted Cecil to get much more recognition than he has. So I've been with him really about 2 years, almost totally on the road. So I just gave up everything. We were doing workshops. I wanted him to be more with the young musicians. We were at Johns Hopkins. We were at many different places, and he too, like Sun Ra, is a great philosopher. So I've been sort of out of commission, but when I came back after I've been about 4 months away, I've been doing more. I'm very concerned about the situation in Israel.
Oh, yes.
So I've been doing a lot of what I call interfaith worship. That means that we are getting Muslims and Jews and faith traditions together for one service. And I've been working on a number of them. We have one December 21st, winter solstice. But Bayard Lancaster is sort of taking me out of retirement.
Huh?
It's funny how it all clicked at one time. So he's talking about something that I would performance in Philadelphia.
Well, that sounds good. You know, this program here is One World Radio, and the Sun Ra's Cosmic Corner is just one segment of it. And what I do usually every week is I try to play Arab music and Jewish music together, back to back, to show how connected they are. So
Well, I think it's so important that we've stopped thinking of Muslims as terrorists, and then it seeps into the psyche, of the United States.
yeah.
So that's why we're making a great effort, and we have something coming up at the Hebrew congregation. There's a group here that's really pushing it hard, and then the Martin Luther King, that's coming up in January. So that has been taking up a lot of my time, but anybody who wants me to read Sun Ra's poetry, of course I will stop everything.
That's great. And, I know that, Cecil is, he's still mourning Jimmy Lyons, and Jimmy Lyons was one of my favorites. Actually, we shared the same birthday, and I got to see Jimmy perform with Cecil several times, and on his own, too, and I used to love Jimmy Lyons quite a bit. So I've got a connection there. And the other interesting thing that you might want to know, my son, on my son's 1-year birthday, it was the day that Sun Ra passed off the planet, and we were having his party, and I got a call that Sonny had just passed. So, we've got some really strong connections going around these parts, and it sounds like you've got strong ones also.
Well, that's what seems to, I call it the Sun Ra family.
Yeah.
And even the person who does the website, he translated, I think, hundreds of Sun Ra's poetry into Spanish.
Wow.
And then we've also had much of this poetry put into the Library of Congress, because there was another fan there.
Wow.
So that was my program for 7 years, to publicize the poetry of Sun Ra. And I was on many radio stations all over, any group locally that wanted to play, the New Orleans Festival. So somehow it just ended at 7 years, and that just seemed right to me. But it was my program that I had done what I wanted. We now have archives. We were starting it in New Orleans. That did not take off.
Yeah.
But in Spain, the Susu has a beautiful archives. I've given them many things, so that we want to preserve whatever we have. But as I say, mine is only the poetry.
Yeah, well, that's important, because Sun Ra is, there was nobody ever like him, and there probably never will be. So he needs to be honored by as many people as possible, is my feeling. And that archive in New Orleans is too bad. Kid Jordan is another person who I've really enjoyed his playing. When I saw him perform with Michael Ray one time, I told him he should get become part of the orchestra, but he just doesn't have the time for that.
Where'd you see him, in New Orleans?
Actually, I saw them up in Burlington, Vermont. It was a Sun Ra Memorial concert, and Michael was up there with his band, the Cosmic Crew, and he had Kid Jordan, and Marshall was there. And
yeah, but I was there.
You were there, too, at that one, up in Burlington?
Wasn't that the one where we had that person from Fish, the saxophonist from Fish?
No, he wasn't at that one.
No, because that's his territory.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yep.
So we had a concert with him in Burlington, and then later they brought the whole Fish to New Orleans, and never has there been such crowds.
Oh, I bet.
And then they all, this is Michael Ray, Cosmic Crew.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were called.
Yes. So are you in contact with Michael at all?
Not too much anymore. It was more with the tributes. You see, he would join us. Eddie Gale joined us.
Yep.
We tried to get different members wherever we were. So if we were in New Orleans, it was Kid Jordan that did the tributes in New Orleans. And, of course, Michael was always there. And then in California, it was Eddie Gale.
Uh-huh.
And then, I'm starting to lose names. The violinist who played with Sun Ra, I'm looking at her right now. He'll come to me. Anyway, the dancers, whoever Eddie could get together in the West Coast, and then various radio stations. So it somehow came to a nice ending in the 7 years. And by that time, John Gilmore passed away, and then Marshall took over the orchestra, and it was much more mobile. And I wasn't able to travel as much as they've been traveling.
Yeah.
So I haven't been with Marshall really at all, only because at that time I was with Cecil.
Yeah. Well, you're a busy woman.
Yeah, but I love to be in Philadelphia, so I'll probably see more of him.
All right, that's great. All right, Trudy, well, I'm going to let you move on with your day, but I want to really thank you a lot for taking time out and spend time with us here on Sun Ra's Cosmic Corner, and it was great talking to you, and hopefully we'll connect up sometime soon. And
well, this has been my privilege, and I hope you'll call Marshall to ask Marshall to please call Bayard.
I will.
Because my computer is not working.
Okay, well, I will. I'll call Marshall this week.
So therefore, it's another connection somehow. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, Richard.
Well, thanks.
And you're going to send me a tape, please.
I will, Trudy, but you know what? I don't have your address.
Okay, do you have a pen?
Yes, I do.
P.O. Box 444 Garrett. That's G as in good, A-R-R-E-T-T, Park, Maryland, 20896. And if you have any of my emails, it's on the email, and I do invite you to visit my website.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Trudy.
Bye-bye, and
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, folks. All right, folks, that was Trudy Morse right here on Sun Ra's Cosmic Corner. And, man, that was pretty darn cool. I think we're going to have to hear another piece from Sun Ra right now. This one was at a concert that I attended in Cambridge in 1990. And we're going to hear a version of Love in Outer Space right here on Sun Ra's Cosmic Corner. So, Trudy, do you think you might want to read a poem, and we can play a little bit of Sun Ra behind you? And
Well, I have in front of me Cosmic Equations. That has always been my favorite. And if you have any of the old Saturn, I think anyone you pick up, it will go.
Well, unfortunately, I have a lot. I have most of them, to be honest, but I didn't bring them in with me.
All right.
But I do have...
When I mentioned, that the book is annotated, which he likes, which are his favorites, I just picked up When Angels Speak. That has a circle, a line, and a check. So let's do that one, and I'm sure it'll work into whatever you have. It's the only one that has so many. Although these, I don't know, this one just struck me as another favorite. Okay, but I will hear what you're playing, and it may be something totally different.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's try this.
There came a whirl and a throb in the spirit of the air, and the wind spoke to me. Every part of me is the essence of life. I come from beyond. I come from beyond the comprehension of Earth. There is no map of my realm. My haven is the threshold and the kingdoms of the universe. I live and dwell as the scale of nothingness. For I am nothing, but I am power, and I am life itself. Thus spoke the wind to me, while I listened to the music of the spheres. Every part of me is the essence of life. I came out from beyond the comprehension of earth. There is no map of my realm. My haven is the threshold and the kingdom. I am nothing, but I am power, and I am life itself. Thus spoke the winds in me, while I listened to the music of the spheres.